So welcome to today's webinar, which is how to avoid the top 4 security pitfalls around video collaboration. We'll be presenting myself, Cara Daly. I'm the Senior Director of Product Marketing here at EdgeHouse Video, along with my colleague, Miguel Lopez, who's the Vice President of Product Management. So we're really going to talk about kind of a very broad perspective on the new ways of working that we've all seen in this kind of post-COVID world and the impact that it has on security. We're going to talk more about a concept of sort of a private channel for video, and then also talking a little bit more in detail about the technical administrative controls that those private channels enable. And then we'll spend a little bit of time broadly going over some of the solutions that EdgeHouse Video provides. So really, this year has been unlike any other with this pandemic that we're all dealing with COVID. And what it has done from a remote work and enterprise collaboration perspective is completely blown off any barriers, any excuse for not adopting video as a remote work tool. It's really shifted this year beyond anything that we have seen in the past. And way back in April, right when things first started to really increase in the U.S. and around the world in the U.K., Gartner did a global survey of 229 different companies, and at that time, 50% of them said that they had 81% or more of their employees working remotely. And then about another 15% said, 61 to 80% of their employees were able to work remotely. So when you think about it, that's practically 2/3 of companies having more than half of their employees working remotely right now. And I think in the UK and in EMEA, it seems that things are starting to return back to normal a little bit. Where we're based in the US, it's looking like it's going to be kind of a long time before we get back to normal and really have that office interaction again. So what has that done? It forced everybody almost overnight to basically, go into, move into this mode where they are basically having to move on to video kind of unexpectedly and maybe without some of the lack of preparation. So basically a lot of organizations, because they had to from one week to the next, some of them adopted free video services, some of them expanded use of some video services that they had. And what did we see? In the spring, you probably remember back that there were headline after headline of security concerns happening with major household names that we see out there providing video collaboration services. So we heard stories around privacy of companies sharing their users' personal data with third-party companies like social media, Facebook, and things like that. We saw separate stories around recorded videos finding their way out onto the open web. We heard plenty of stories about meeting bombing, people not being invited to meetings and showing up that way. And then also, anytime people are using kind of these free solutions out there, if you are not paying for the product, we know that you, in fact, are the product. So there is this concept of monetizing data, usage patterns, that really is something that people are starting to take a lot more seriously. So what happened? We saw almost overnight people switching from one multi-tenant cloud-based video provider, just flipping the switch and moving to other multi-tenant cloud-based meeting providers. And, the question that we would ask, you see kind of a whole lot of headlines coming from, all around the world where people are making this switch really abruptly. The question is, yes, it is very easy to switch to another multi-tenant cloud for your video conferencing meetings, but does that truly solve the problem that motivated people to make that switch in the first place? And what I'd like to do is actually explore some other options. Are there other approaches to solving this problem? So what if there are other options than just going from one multi-tenant cloud provider to another multi-tenant cloud video conferencing provider? And that's really where we start thinking about broader choices in how deployments can actually impact security and some of these issues. So basically, we would like to look at some, what it means to have true on-premises deployments as well as true private cloud, private instance deployments where you're not on kind of this multi-tenant type of architecture, and also looking at, hybrid as well. We also, from our perspective, we still definitely have a multi-tenant cloud offering, but it's just important to understand for IT administrators that you do give up some level of controls when you're moving into a multi-tenant environment. So really, it's kind of thinking about this concept in two different ways, that there are kind of like your public channels, those multi-tenant cloud architectures is really for maybe collaboration that is not super sensitive, just day-to-day business, but it wouldn't be, maybe you're not recording or doing other things like that. So things like the Zooms, the Teams, the Google Hangouts, these are all sort of the multi-tenant cloud providers, and we also have an offering in that space. But really, where there's a kind of different approach is thinking about having private video channel for those conversations that need that higher level of security. Maybe it's your board meetings, maybe it's future product design meetings, things that you really would not want to find recordings of out on the open web or have meeting bombs. But basically, where you can actually be ensured that you have complete control over that environment. So whether that is kind of on premises in your environment or as a private instance in in one of the larger cloud providers. So our multi-tenant cloud that we offer, we do leverage Google Cloud Platform. And parts of AWS as well. But really, the way we have architected our video collaboration solution is that we are agnostic to, to the main cloud offerings. So we understand that many organizations are moving a lot of their critical IT operations to many of these cloud providers. And one thing, because we were originally starting as kind of on-premises first before moving to the cloud, is that we are not using any proprietary cloud technologies where we are kind of reliant or committed to just one particular cloud architecture. We're very flexible in that we can be deployed across all of these different types of cloud environments. And what that does is it gives our customers greater flexibility and choice if they're interested in doing a true, private instance, but up in their preferred cloud provider of choice. Additionally, we take our industry certifications very seriously. Of course, for Europe, you have to be GDPR. In the US, in healthcare, HIPAA compliance, where we're protecting, all patient health information. That's something that we have baked in standard in our product and our operating procedures. JITC is a government level of security, and we also definitely serve the government space where on-prem and inside those environments become even more important. The other area where we have a slightly different approach from some of those multi-tenant cloud offerings is that when you're dealing in a private instance, whether that's in your private cloud or on premises, it is much easier to really brand and customize the video experience that you see. So we have a lot of customers opting to basically white label and put their own branding in the app where it looks, it really represents their brand and culture. We also have over 30 different parameters that can be, essentially turned on and off in terms of making sure it works for the workflow that the company prefers. So, so essentially if they want to have everyone join, voice and content only, or, video first, or highest quality optimized video, there's basically a lot of different ways where we can actually turn on and off features and functionality to achieve the desired workflow of, of any organization. So with that, I'm going to invite my colleague Miguel back on, and I'll turn it over to him to talk a little bit more about having private instance of video can really give administrators the ultimate control.
Thank you, Cara. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Miguel Lopes, VP of Product Management, and I just want to build a bit on top of what Cara has been talking about and go to a little bit more in depth and what do we mean with security, privacy, and how do we tackle this issue. So as we have this flexibility of having our own public cloud, you can deploy in your own private cloud, whether it's AWS, Google, IBM, we're really agnostic, Azure. We never compromise on these 4 factors here, right? The privacy certifications, they're a core part of our platform. Authentication, authorization, and integration with main authentication providers. The encryption, which is key, both signaling and media, and how to manage the threat and vulnerability management. So these 4 core principles are entrenched into our architecture, and even as we evolve as a platform, when we do new releases, we always keep these in mind. Next slide, please, Karen. So what I wanted to talk about and split into a few points in categorizing, and I wanted to start with the admin control, right? Traffic, when you do have a video conference platform, traffic is extremely important in how you manage it. It's broken down in signaling, which is basically the messages exchanged by the platform with the clients on how to set up the sessions, the media itself, which is basically the traffic flow, the video or the audio. So by giving you the flexibility to do this on your own data center, on your own private cloud, you have full control over all these elements. So not only you control how the signaling is exchanged, you control the routes it takes, but the same way happens with the media. So the RTP traffic, which is basically the video traffic, you can manage, where you want to route it from, where it's originating, and how you're routing, and you can offer this transparency to your customers. The other part is the keys. So as I mentioned, everything is encrypted, and as part of our certifications, it has to be both in transmission and at rest. So the keys for the encryption, you can manage your own. If you deploy it on your own AWS instance, if you deploy it on your own Azure or Google, you can create your own keys, and you can define your own private SSL settings. So this is extremely important. Why? Because it means that no third party, including ourselves, would have access to your system, right, without your knowledge. You manage and you control from all the aspects of your security and your encryption, whether you need it or not, right? Using, for example, our public cloud, you'd be using our own keys. Again, everything is still encrypted, but it's like any other multi-tenancy platform that is ran on the public cloud, right? It has this situation. So what we want is to offer our customers full control over all aspects of the platform. Next slide, please, Karen. So talking about the data, as mentioned before, free has a cost, right? Other platforms that gives you free tiers, normally it's because they're monetizing the data or there's some other business model around it. As I usually say, there's no such thing as free lunch. So we at Video don't do that. Your data is your own data, whether you're using on our public cloud or you deploy it on your own private cloud or on your own data center. We do not utilize the data. And when you do it on your own, when it's your own deployment, right, on your premises or your private cloud, one very important thing is you control how you store your data and you have full access in terms of how you want to organize it and how you want to manage it, right? So, and this goes for the call data records, the CDRs. The CDRs, as most of you that are in the telecom industry know, they contain absolutely everything from the details from the meetings, what time people called in, they called out, to the origin information, which server they connected. So these is it's very critical data that needs to be protected. The same way happens with the logs and monitoring of everything that goes on, the exchange of the SNMP monitoring agents. So all this data that is generated by your customers, it's valuable, but it's also important to keep safe. At Video, we give you the full control over this, right? You own the data. It's stored at the location that you define it needs to be stored. Then obviously there's also the part for creating, leveraging that for your own business intelligence, right? So we don't tell you what to do with your data. It's yours and you secure it. But the other part is, and I've seen this happen, is you can use it to improve your service and drive and have differentiators from your competitors. As Cara mentioned, we offer the possibility for a white label. So we provide you the technology. You can label it with your own brand. You can sell it as your service. And you can use the data generated by your customers to improve your service and create differentiator factors from the other competitors in the market. As you can see, we've been flooded with new video conference providers, especially at this time of pandemic. So it's becoming increasingly hard on how you differentiate. So aside from being able to offer full security, encryption, certification, privacy, all of that, you can also manage your own data and start offering from dashboards and other statistics to your own customers or to yourself on how to improve your service and differentiate. Next slide, please. So the other very important part of any conferencing or collaboration system is the audio part. Now, video is extremely important, obviously, but I can tell you, and you'd agree, that if we're in the conference and my video is a bit choppy, but my voice is crystal clear, you know, it's far from optimal, but it's still workable, right? You can still have a productive meeting if all the audio streams are clear. To do that, you need to have proper visibility into what's happening to the voice. As we know, while many people use their computers to join the meetings, there's still a very high percentage that are calling in. So how do you manage the telephony and how do you manage the quality that's coming in and the routes? So if you're using a multi-tenancy public service, you have to subject yourself to the phone numbers that these companies are offering. You have to use their own voice routes where you have pretty much zero control on what's going on. With our option for you to deploy on your own private clouds or using your own data center, we actually give you full control over this, right? You have full visibility into the voice quality and you can configure which routes you want to use for the incoming and outgoing calls. You can select your own phone numbers, which is something extremely important because it also drives your costs, right? You have all of this together under your control, whether you want to have a number for a country, multiple numbers, or have, you know, multiple geographic distributed numbers and how you want to manage those routes. It's everything up to you. Our platform will allow you to do all of this, whether you want to use one SIP trunk or multiple SIP trunks. All of this is under your control. Next slide, please. And then, obviously, the network access. We know that as a video collaboration system, recordings, access to the management, access to the voice settings. All of this can become a privacy nightmare if there's an issue, right? So if you're using a cloud, a public cloud multi-tenancy platform, a lot of these settings are not available to you because it has to be controlled by the platform owner that has this distributed across all the tenants with common settings. But if you decide to take the system, put it on your own private cloud or on-premise, then you will be able to do all of this. So, for example, the recordings. The recordings is typically every IT admin nightmare because they want to make sure they're secure and no one unauthorized can access it. When you have this granularity of control, because you have the system on your own network, on your own virtual private cloud, you can decide if you want to store them at the same location, if you want to distribute them, how do you want to encrypt them, and how basically you want to manage all this recording parts of the platform. So all of this becomes something that you can put as part of your security strategy. Right, the same to control the web proxy, right? To access the system, to access the admin from video, for example, everything comes through a web proxy. How do you want to limit it? And a very, very granular example of this specific is we have a customer in the Middle East that it serves only that region. So anyone that needs to access the admin portal doesn't need, if it's outside the Middle East region, should not have access. So in one swipe, they basically were able to secure and to address one of the security concerns they might have. So, and this and many other examples on how you control the web proxy, because in the end, the whole platform is on your own infrastructure or in your own virtual private cloud. So you control all of this. We at Video, we advise our customers, our on-premise customers, on how to do this and how to fine-tune the system to better address their necessities, right? The same goes for the session border controller. Typically, big providers, they have multiple session border controllers. They want to make sure that the video system is using the right ones because of the telephony, so the telephony network on calls coming in and out. So all of these items, if you think about it, it's basically an A to Z control of everything, and with a company that will help you set it up in the best way possible, not only for performance, but above all to security. Next slide, please. So one of the last items, and coincidentally enough called the last mile, that I wanted to talk is how do you then split the architecture? Because I just mentioned, right, we can help you set up for performance, which is extremely important as you want to provide the best service possible to your customers, but also for security. So a few things in architecture that are very interesting is that it is completely distributable, meaning that, for example, let's say you're a UK company that wants to provide video conferencing services in the UK, but also you want to provide in Germany. Now, we're all aware of the Brexit situation and how this is going to change in terms of regulation and being able, having to deal with both realities, right? The EU and the UK itself. So, and above that, there are certain EU countries, for example, like Germany, that require that anything that contains subscriber information or that it's a service to be done within Germany, that all the information has to be within German data centers, or, you know, if you're using AWS or Google, within one of their data centers on your own virtual private cloud within Germany. Right, so let's imagine you're a company from the UK. You want to provide video conferencing service. You deploy it in your own virtual private cloud in the UK. You brand the application with your company name and your own UI, UX, right? But you have customers in Germany that you want to address. But you don't want to have to replicate your entire setup again in Germany. It's costly, and typically when you're starting in a new country, you know, you have a certain number of customers, but you want to keep the investment costs under control. So our architecture would allow that. For example, you have your full setup within the UK, but you create just a router pool. And just to give you an idea what is a router in video, the video router is like for where the video and signaling goes through. So you could have, for example, if you have a conference with UK participants in geographically Germany, right? The UK participants could be using the routers you have deployed in the UK, while the German users are the ones using it, the routers located in Germany. So you're not breaking regulation. You're still providing a great service, because the fact that the routers are in Germany for the German users, it means that they're going to have low latency. That last mile it provides a lot of quality, because the traffic, both the signaling and media, they're just local over there. So in between the Germany users, the participants, they would be basically hosted at that router, having great latency, the last mile bandwidth. Germany has a very advanced fiber deployment all around the country, so all there, while the UK users would be using the routers in the UK, also optimizing, because the distance would be minimal. So this type of distribution and rules, it's all under your control, and you can fine-tune all this whole path. I used a very basic example between two countries, but if I give you an example within video, right? Video, we're a global company. We have offices worldwide. We have team members worldwide. And for example, we have team members in New Zealand. When we're having a conference with them, I'm based in the US as well as Cara, and we have people based in the UK. And if we're having a conference, we use our distributor router pool worldwide. We use GCP as our cloud provider, so that our participants have the best experience. Plus, in terms of regulations of keeping the traffic within country and information, we can basically comply with all of it. This is very important, and not every provider can do that for you, and it's a core part of our architecture. And I think that was pretty much from the 4 points, and actually the 5 points that I wanted to discuss. I will give it back to you, Cara. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miguel. So for those of you who are sort of new, this might be your first webinar learning a little bit about EdgeHouse video. I just wanted to give an overview of who we are, and really it's been about 1.5 years, not quite, since video was acquired by EdgeHouse. And really, we're still standing on the shoulders of a long history of invention, innovation, and leadership. So some of the areas where, our security, what we bring to the market is really critical, has to do with our serving the financial services sector, and also the healthcare sector, which we have a lot of organizations adopting us for telehealth, telemedicine. We have millions of patients per year using this for a telehealth type of application, as well as the financial services sector. Maybe it's actually about 6 of the top 25 banks in the world use us for video engagement with their customers. So you can imagine that we certainly have to have our security credentials in order to be able to serve these two sectors so readily. Additionally, in the U.S., we have one of our very large customers that really cares about security is the Department of Defense, which uses over 500 million video minutes per year. And in terms of our solutions, really, our mission is to visually enable any idea or application. So really what we're trying to do is help teams and businesses collaborate to have really great experiences with their remote meetings. We are also very much focused on customer engagement. So enabling, customer service agents to have deeper relationships with their customers by being able to video enable those agents to have more of a personal communication at the time when those moments really matter. And additionally, we provide communications platform as a service to be able to embed video inside of other organizations or companies' apps. So whether it is an ATM, whether it is a bank's banking web app, anything like that, we can actually become the video channel inside of other existing apps. So really what we are bringing to market is sort of two, we'll call them packaged solutions. One is Video Connect, which is for enterprise collaboration. The other is Video Engage, which is for video-based customer engagement. And all of this is powered by the video platform, which has the the APIs, the infrastructure in terms of the, if it's cloud deployed, we use our global footprint that's provided by GCP. And that really gives the security and scalability that can address these different markets. In terms of features, we actually, of course, we've talked about how highly secure we are, but we are robust and scalable. We can offer up to 4K video in conference rooms and even on desktop if your monitor and bandwidth supports that. We are also optimized for mobile, where we target the right screen resolution that your device supports based on its CPU and its connectivity and network availability. And we also have very scalable multi-party videos. So really, in conclusion about the video section of this, really what is making us unique in terms of our approach to security is that private instance, whether it's private cloud or on-premises, really being the right solution for hypersensitive video collaboration. So that is really what I wanted to share on that. But before we actually wrap up, I just wanted to say, it has been about 1.5 years or so since we were acquired by EdgeHouse. And really what that has done for video is it's really enabled us to have a larger reach, a bigger scale, standing on their 35 years of contact center experience, and also their very broad customer base across the globe. And for those of you who are very familiar with EdgeHouse's contact centers, really, their 4 pillars in terms of application architecture, having that omni-channel model, which is very important to include video as part of an omni-channel, having open standards and interoperability is really where their solutions portfolio shines. Feel free to reach out to us by email at marketingemea@edgehouse.com or visit the edgehouseinteractive.co.uk website for more information. Thank you so much for your time today. Enjoy your afternoon.